Hi everyone, this is Jeff, and this is the second in a three-part training series on how to use modern Cryengine game art assets in 3D programs such as Blender. This series is focused on Blender, but a lot of the information can apply to other programs, such as Maya and 3ds Max. In addition, a lot of the procedures used in manipulating MWO assets also work for other Cryengine games, such as Star Citizen and Armored Warfare. So once you master these basic skills, you should be able to apply them to other games. In this video, we will go over how to bulk convert Cryengine assets using a simple PowerShell command, and how to use the new Cryengine Importer Blender add-on to create an asset library. Please be aware of all applicable copyright rules and don't steal. Thank you. All right, let's get started. In the last video, we went over how to use a converter here to convert a single file, but that is it's pretty labor intensive. So what we're going to do now is go over how to use a PowerShell command to convert a bunch of them at once. Here we are in the MWO object directory, which should be familiar by now. And most of the things we want to convert are going to be actually under objects, which you can see. And let us go, we're going to do an environment. We're going to convert some assets from the Mech lab. So let's go to environments, and then front end is where they are, Mech lab. And then let's do the catwalks and railings. And actually what we're going to do is we're going to convert all the assets under here. In fact, if you want to convert all the assets for the entire game, you probably want to run this at the objects level here, or maybe even at the object directory level. But we're just going to do the Mech lab right now to save time, because it does take a little bit of time to convert all these things. But it is a pretty simple PowerShell command to do a loop. And the way we're going to do it is for each string file in, and then get child item recurse, which is important because that will go through each of the subdirectories that it finds. And then we need to specify the filters, CGA, star.cgf, star.chr, star.skin, although I don't think there's any skin files in here. And then in the code block part, we type the command cgf converter file. And then, of course, you got to use object directory, object dir depot /MWO. Close the code block, and that should do it. It's going to go through all the CGA files it finds in here and convert it into Collada DAE. All right, that wasn't too bad. It was probably a couple minutes. You can see there are a ton of assets. Even in this one small scene, there are a lot of them. Doors and walls and pipes and all kinds of stuff. Now we have a bunch of DAE files we can import into Blender. So if we go to catwalks and railings and take a look in here, you'll see, look at them all. They're everywhere. This is great because now we can simply bring them into Blender. But this is not really useful because you have to import, if you're going to do a scene, you have to find every single one of these assets, import it in, fix the materials up, and so on and so on, and create node groups. So I made a tool called, originally I made a tool called Asset Importer, which automated it. It was a PowerShell script that made a text file called import.txt that you had to paste into the Blender Python console. But honestly, that was a bit dumb. It's a dumb way of doing it. And there was also a Mech Importer version of it as well. But I've archived these, and I've made a new Blender add-on called Cryengine Importer, which does both of these features combined. It's much more easy for me to update. It also has a Prefab Importer part of it that's going to be new, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, it is pretty cool. It's a Blender add-on, so you just add it via the add-ons panel in Blender. Just download it, and we want to do open. And here's the two parts. You have the Python add-on actually. You have the Blender add-on right here, and this is the MWO camo file for mechs that was created by Andreas80, who is a node group wizard, and I'll show you how to use that as well. So let's just take these, export them to, I put everything in scripts usually, and they're already here. I'm not going to replace them. So you see, here's the Blender add-on, and here's my camo blend file. Okay, so now what? Let's get this going in Blender. Let's open up Blender, and this is how you install add-ons. I'm going to change back to the default view. Normally you see a cube here, but I don't have it, but I deleted it in my default blend view. So we go to User Preferences, and then we go to click on the Add-ons tab, Install Add-on from File, and scripts. Here is the Python. You click Add from File, and then you have to find it in here. This helps filter to import export, which is what this is filed under, and you just make sure you enable it right here. And it does have a little warning here that says you have to use the CGF converter to convert the CG and CGF files, which I am assuming you've done. If you haven't done that, this is probably going to fail spectacularly. All right, so once that is installed, you now have some options here under import. You'll have import mech, which will import a mech that you've converted. Import Cryengine assets, which will make a blend file out of all the DAs in a directory. It works on a directory level, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. And import Cryengine prefab, which will let you use the prefab assets to create entire scenes, and I will also go over that. But right now, we just care about import Cryengine asset. Now, you do have some options here. You have the texture type. DDS is the default, and for most Cryengine games, this is what you're going to want to use. You also can select TIFF here, and what that will do is it will look for the TIFF version of the textures. Blender can't read the Star Citizen version of the DDS files, but there are some utilities where you can convert those to a TIFF, and if you do that, then you want to select TIFF here. It has to be able to find those files. If you don't do it, Star Citizen still has the DDS file, but you won't see the materials properly in your layout, and you'll have to fix them all up. Save file, by default, it's going to save the file as the directory name.blend. It will automatically overwrite any file that it finds with that name, so be careful if you have a file that you've already imported and you made a lot of changes to it. You probably don't want to automatically save over it, so you want to uncheck that. And generate preview is nice when you're trying to create a scene. It takes all the assets in this blend file it's going to create, makes little thumbnails so that when you're trying to import them in a scene and you want to see exactly what a railing is of the 300 different types of railings, and you can actually see a little thumbnail of that. So super nice. I like doing that, and we'll do that. And let's go to catwalks and railings. You just have to have the name up here. You don't need to put anything down here. You don't want to select anything down here either. These are all the files that it found in this directory. And if we go up a level, you can see under doors, there's just one file there. Crates, there's two different types of crates, but it's directory oriented. All right, so you click on import, and this will take a couple seconds. If you don't have the generate preview option selected, it'll go a lot quicker, but it's doing a lot of rendering in the background. All right, that wasn't too bad. It's probably about 30 seconds. And here are all the assets. Now you can see it did set cycles. It will do that for you because it is using cycles node groups. We can actually, well, actually we're not going to look at that right now, but you can tell that a couple of pieces went flying off in the middle of nowhere here. Not really sure why it does it. It's probably part of my converter program doesn't quite set the root, but you can, and you really do want to do this. You want to reset the transform to be at the root. So if you hit Alt G, it'll move them back into the center. The other thing that happened that's probably not as visible to you is one of these materials here is not quite right. So let's grab that, move that up a little bit for now. We'll reset the transform in a second here. But this is not the right material for it. It looks for all the material files in the directory, and if there's multiple material files that use the same material name, it can grab the wrong one. The way you fix this is you go here, and you just change, you can see grill 01 and trim 01, and it had a grill and a trim, and it just got confused between the two. So you set that the right one, set this to the right trim, and that should be it. Then Alt-G to clear that transform, and there you go. You have a nice library. Let's save this because that is what we want to do. And if we want to do a quick render on this, see what it looks like, let's grab the camera and make sure I can see everything. Let's move that out of the way a little bit. Let's set some features up, go to GPU, set the full resolution, do a transparent background, and we also want to set some lighting up. You almost always want to use HDRI for lighting. It just makes things look really good. And I do have a bunch of HDRI files that I use for this kind of stuff. Let's do a nice indoor corporate interior scene or lighting. Open it up, and let's make sure our performance is set So this doesn't take forever. Make nice big blocks. And then if you hit F12 in the camera set, yeah, this should be good. Let's see what it looks like. All right, look at that. That's beautiful. The lighting's a little dim. I might want to tweak that in my thing, but it doesn't really matter because this is just for asset purposes. You are going to use this file to import into other scenes. So let us move on. Actually, let's take a look what that looks like. Let's go to Blender. We're opening up a new instance. This is our library file, and if we make a new scene, let's set it to cycles. Get rid of that. Let's do the default layout again. And the way you use the library is you use the link feature. You can do append, but what append will do is it will copy assets into this particular blend file, which sometimes you want to do that, usually not, because if you make a scene with a bunch of assets in it, if you need to change one of the assets for whatever reason, if you append it, the changes won't be reflected in every location. So I just like using link. And then we can go to catwalks and railings. And I did, as part of the Cryengine importer, it does create a group for every item out there. So you can easily access them this way. There we go. Now they came into the right location. I do have this set to material mode. There you go. Now you have them. Now you can grab individual pieces and move them around and duplicate. The x-axis, you can start creating walkways that way. Yeah, and then you can start building your scene out this way. Again, these are linked, so you have these empties where you actually control them, control the objects, and you can't change the material on them. As you see, there's no material button on this, which is fine. Again, it's all controlled through this file. So if you make a change to one of these assets and save this, when you reopen this, it looks in this file for that asset, and then the changes will be reflected in this scene here. All right, so that's it for the asset importer portion of this video. Let's talk about mechs, because we all really like mechs, and we want to see what mechs. So let's close this asset. Let's close this guy down. Yeah, I don't want to say this was just a temp file. Now we want to take a look at mechs. So mechs are found not under environment, under mechs, and then they're all here. And go to Adder. It is the best mech. And then again, you do the CGF converter right here, for each file and get child on recurse, blah, 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 skin. There are CHR files in here, which is important because that is the armature. So you want to make sure you include the converting of the armature into something useful. And then object directory, yep, that should do it. And I'm not actually going to hit enter here. I've already converted all the files, so I don't really need to do that. Break, stop. I guess we're going to do it. All right, that wasn't too bad. Just another minute or two to do all the assets in this directory. All right, now we want to import the mech. So let's go back to Blender and set this back to default layout. And we want to do File, Import Mech, which is one of the 3 new tools as part of Cryengine Importer. And we go to the Adder directory. In my particular case, objects mechs adder, and it's looking for the CHR file. You still have some of the same options before. You can select DDS or TIFF. Mechs it's MWO specific, and those DDS files are good. So just use that, and then to save it automatically. You might want to be a little more careful with this because if you create an adder.blend file with animations on it and you run this to save it automatically, it can cause some problems. You'll lose all your animations. So. But you probably shouldn't save it as that name. You should save it as a custom name. But yeah, anyway, import. And what this is going to do is it's going to go through all the files we converted. It's going to create an armature. It's going to create the materials for it, and you can move them around. It's got full IKs on them, so if you need to move an arm, you can see the elbow. Here's like the elbow IK for the left arm. You can change that around to position them. This is a fully rigged mech. You have a torso box here, which controls the lower. You've got a couple of, here, let's turn this off, material mode, back to solid so it's a little easier to see. You have a circle here that can rotate the top. and you have a circle here that rotates the bottom, or actually this rotates the whole thing. And then the box controls the hips, and you can grab them. It's set up so that the feet will follow around. The eye case like that. This is a chicken walker, so the knees are in the back. For a more human-legged version of it, the eye case will be in the front. So you can move those around. Yeah, there's all kinds of great stuff you can do with this. Let's do a semi-run. You rotate the foot. All right, grab Y, rotate X, and yeah, there full mech in full stride right here. Let's move this out a little bit because it probably should be positioned a little bit better. All right, and of course the materials are, well, if you notice there's no weapons on this mech, which is kind of a problem. But if you go to, I'm going to turn materials back on. All the materials are on the second layer here. If you want to make them available on the first one, you select the materials you want, hit M to select layer, and if you shift click this one, it will be visible on both of them. And there you can see the weapons came across. They don't look quite positioned right. Let's see, let's reset all the positions, and then you can move them around again. But this is just the default camo pattern for the mechs, which is nice, but if we're going to be thorough, we actually want to make it look a little bit better. So let us select one of the mech parts here. If you go to the Materials tab, you will see all the materials are assigned. There are 4 materials on any given mech, or 4 or 5. There's the body, the variant, the window, a decal one, and on some of the newer mechs there's a generic. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt to sort between them, but yeah. This is the default texture that it creates for the mech. It's just a simple diffuse, specular, and normal map with the principled BSDF node. But this is simple, and we want to do much better than that. So let us append the MWO Camo 3 pattern from Andreas, and I have that, if we remember where I exported to, it was in scripts, and here's the MWO pattern, and then it's material, so you go under material and click it right there. And it's linked in, it's appended into this blend file now, which is what we want, but we need to add a new material to actually get it in here. Type camo right here. And here you can see the node layout for that particular, you can see the node layout. This node group is very huge and complicated, and he was nice enough to put this node group to simplify it. You can select the 3 channels for the colors for the camo patterns, but what we need to do now is find the right texture files for it. So this is the camo pattern. Since it already imported all the texture files from the material files, you should be able to find it this way. We're going to do the body right now, and the camo is RGB, so you select that. Diffuse is going to be DIF. DDN is normal. DDN, and then specular is SPC, body, SPC. All right. Now there's 2 materials assigned here, which is not quite what we want. So let's select all the nodes in here, Control with A, Control C to copy it. Go to this material, use A to select all the nodes, delete them, and then paste in that node group. Let's move it over a little bit. And there you go. Now the body, we can get rid of this MWO camo material now. This is the new layout. You can change the colors of your mech this way. Make them a nice kind of purplish blue. The default camo pattern for the adder only has 1 channel. You can't really see these other 2 colors. They're not there. But you can actually select. If you go, where are all the? They have all the files, all the camo patterns under. Let's take a look at this as a list under skins. Skins. Should we do a Buccaneer? Because that's a real good one. And here you can see the body and variant for the Buccaneer pattern for the adder. So let's collect that, and then, yeah, that's much better. Now you can see the 3 different channels, and we can change colors. There's the white channel. Let's keep that white and red. Let's make it more of a teal like that. Yeah, I'm not very good at colors apparently. So this is for the body, but we also want to do the variant one. So we go here. Let's select all these, delete them, paste in this. But this is not, obviously, these aren't the right materials. You got to find the variant. So let's open this. Go back to a list view, add our variant, open. You have to change all these from the body to variants. This is diffuse, add our variant, diffuse, variant, normal, and finally variant spec. Right there. Okay, now the patterns, the colors will be all proper. You only really need to worry about the variant in the body. Once you change one of the materials, it affects all the different components, so you don't have to keep on mucking around with trying to find each of the different parts. They're all linked together. So now you have a adder with the Buccaneer pattern and the particular colors that you want. So let's grab the camera. We want to render this. Actually, let's do it this way. Yeah. Go from the front. Let's rotate him around a little bit. Grab the arms, move them forward. So it's pointing at you. Move one leg back, one leg forward. Maybe the other way around. Oops. Grab Y. Grab Y. Control Alt 0 changes the camera location to what you're looking at. Try to grab the border. Zoom out a little bit. And again, we gotta set up lighting, set it to GPU, set it on transparency, change the performance so it doesn't take forever. Set the world, use nodes, environmental texture, define HDRI. Let's find a nice bright one this time. HDRI. Like that. Bump it up to 3, turn on ambient occlusion, and yeah, let's render this, see what happens. There you go. There's your adder with the Buccaneer camo pattern with very horrible color schemes. I'm not going to go into the animation part of this. There's a lot of things you do with animation, keyframes, and it's way beyond the scope of this tutorial, but there's a ton of tutorials out there that you can look at on how to actually animate this guy and make him do stuff. So, all right, enough with the mech. I'm not going to save this one either because you can just recreate them very quickly now. And the final thing I want to talk about is the Prefab Importer. So let's actually open up this. And if you notice, again, we're in the MWO root level. You have this prefabs directory with a bunch of XML files that contain information about what, in this case, the mech lab looks like. These are just prefabs. They are not complete levels. I don't have the ability to import levels, but I do update this program quite a bit, and maybe someday I'll add a feature where you can do complete levels with a click of a button, but we're not there yet. Anyway, the mech lab is pretty feature complete, so we're going to use a prefab importer to import this. Now, prior to doing this, again, you have to convert all the files with Cryengine converter, and you also have to convert all the objects to using the asset importer portion of it to make those blend files. It does require those libraries to exist, or it will not be able to find the assets it needs to import into the prefab. So you have to go to each of these directories here, make the default file like that, fix the rotation, fix the translation of materials because it is all linked, and then it will work. Another caveat for the MechLab is there seems to be two locations for these MechLab files, and they're not differentiated in the prefab information. So you actually have to go to, this is under front-end MechLab, but there's also industrial. A lot of the Mech Bay assets are found in here. So you actually have to go and convert the crates and the gantries and the hangar doors all in here as well. So I've already done that. Won't waste your time doing it again, but let's take a look at Blender's asset importer. Let's change this again to default and cycles, although I think it sets cycles automatically for you. Don't need to do that. File, import, prefab. It says not yet implemented. It really is. I need to fix that. Now you need to find the prefab directory, environments, prefabs. Oh, objects too far, not far enough. And then MechLab. And again, same options here. You can save it and it will overwrite it, but you click import, and this will take a second because it is importing a lot of assets. It's linking them. Yeah, okay, that's not the full MechLab, but if you zoom out a little bit, for some reason it offsets them quite a bit. You have it, here it is. Here's all the wall pieces. Let's turn off backface culling so you can kind of see in there. And for some reason, the lighting got set way up here. I'm not really sure why it does that. Let's grab that all, move it down somewhat into place. It probably requires a lot more positioning in this because those are clearly not the right spots. And I have no idea why these pieces got sent way off there as well, but yeah. I'm still working on it. These are elevators. They didn't get put in the right position. You can see one that kind of did, but those are just parts of it. So if you hit Shift F, you can enter flying mode, and you can fly around the MechLab so that you're in it, and you can see all different pieces. Here is a console that didn't get positioned properly. Yeah, if you didn't fix the materials for these pieces when you created those, when you used the importer, the asset importer, it would have shown with the wrong ones in here. You can see these are all, I did fix it so it was all right. I don't know why these are like that, probably a bug somewhere. But yeah, you can throw a mech in here. You can import the doors separately. If you go file, link, where are they? Objects, environments, front end, MechLab, Mech Bay doors, hangar doors. And then we want to do the groups. It didn't do them again. So a door consists of two parts. One of them has the MWO decal on it. The other one doesn't. Link it, and it would have set it to the root position here. So let's grab these. Yeah, let's get those out of the way. Let's grab the non-decal ones. Turn off perspective mode, grab it, set it here. Make sure it's the right altitude. That look about right. That's close enough for our purposes. Duplicate in the Y direction. Hang on, let's grab all the pieces. X, and there you go. That's a little bit better. So let's fly around in here a little bit more. There's some doors. If you didn't reset the transform, those doors would have appeared way out in the middle of nowhere. These look like the materials are kind of messed up on the floors. So after you save this file, you can go through and find out all the parts that don't look the way you want them to and set that up. Let's do a quick test render from over here. And let's change some settings. Change the camera to be a little bit more wide angle so you can see better. And we don't care about, we do want transparent, but we're going to use HDR again, but it's going to be outside of here. Fortunately, there's a lot of lighting in here to help make it work a little bit better. Performance, set this 256. Go to the environmental lighting. Again, use nodes, set environmental texture, find an HDR that will work, or interior. Let's do corporate interior. And bump up the strength a little bit. And let's render this and see what happens. All right, that took 2.5 minutes about. I'm running a 970 card, so it's not the latest and greatest. This is a low, uh, it doesn't have a lot of samples on it. There's only 128. There's a lot of fireflies. The lighting's all messed up, as you can see. You notice the blue lighting there. So it does, in the prefab, it does specify the color of the lighting, and I try to follow that. So there's missing parts. You can see the pipes just kind of seem to end in some places, but for a quick test render, this is a great starting position for you to go modify and make this exactly the way you want it to be. Yeah, and then you throw mechs in here, you throw people, you can animate, you can do all kinds of really fun stuff. But yeah, that's the Prefab Importer. I haven't checked out any of the other prefabs, just the Mech Lab here, but feel free to try them out on other prefabs and see what they look like. And again, as I said, there's no level importer yet, so there's no real way of getting an entire level, but maybe in the future I'll keep working on this. All right, thanks for watching. Enjoy and go make some beautiful art.